First heard that a cargo ship, the Dali, had crashed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge and caused it to collapse into the Patapsco River, I couldn't believe it. How can a bridge just be gone? As for most of us, the infrastructure around me seems like it has always been here and will always be here. MLK Boulevard, for example, is a rip in the scene of the city, but it feels eternal and inevitable. But it only opened in 1982. Our infrastructure becomes our background until it is gone, and then it is all we can see. In this digital tour, I'm going to take you around the city to explore a few of its other bridges and tunnels. When were they built? Why were they built where they are? And what dangers might they pose? Baltimore is a city built on water that boasts a significant shoreline along the Patapsco River as it flows into the Chesapeake Bay. Water means trade routes, and the city needs ways to get across all of this water to make a more productive region. So we need some bridges and tunnels. The Hanover Street Bridge in South Baltimore was first the wooden Light Street Bridge, built in 1858 to connect the Baltimore Peninsula at the southern end of downtown and the far south Baltimore neighborhoods of Brooklyn and Curtis Bay. That bridge burned down in 1914 and was replaced by a concrete span that opened in 1916 as the longest reinforced concrete bridge in Maryland at the time. In the early 1990s, a group of Vietnam veterans organized to rename it the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Bridge. So christened the day before Memorial Day in 1993, many locals still call it the Hanover Street Bridge. The bridge spurred industrial growth along the middle branch of the Patapsco River, and the waterfront was zoned for heavy industry and manufacturing. The steady accumulation of waste and silt eventually rendered this part of the river no longer useful for shipping or recreation, a reminder that the danger of the bridge goes beyond whether or not it falls. We know bridges and tunnels spur growth, but what kind of growth? What does sustainability look like in a region so dependent on motor vehicle transportation? These questions are even more urgent as the bridge carries trucks with hazardous waste, since the tunnels are off limits for this, though news reports suggest hazardous waste is being driven through tunnels now that the key bridge is gone. Which neighborhoods are most at risk, and how can that risk be lowered and shared? Baltimore's Harbor Tunnel connects the south shore of the Patapsco with Dundalk, carrying vehicles in two two-lane tunnels. The first of 21 tunnel segments was sunk on April 11, 1956, and the tunnel was opened to the public with great fanfare on November 29, 1957, as the, quote, longest two-trench tube-type tunnel in the world, according to an Afro article from that day. 10,000 vehicles crossed in the first 12 hours of its opening. In that same time, the tunnel saw its first accident 15 minutes in and its first stalled vehicle and flat tire. The more things change, eh? Part of I-895, the Harbor Tunnel's opening reduced neighborhood street commercial traffic by 40% and eliminated over 50 through traffic signals. Since the 1950s, the tunnels have undergone two major repairs. First in the 1980s after the Fort McHenry Tunnel opened in 1985, and next in the 2010s. I sure remember that traffic. Oh wait, if I'm in traffic, I am traffic. Speaking of traffic, the Fort McHenry Tunnel project was a response to traffic demands and the need to expand across our area waters. The tunnel carries traffic across the Baltimore Harbor and is part of I-95. Like the Harbor Tunnel, Fort McHenry is two two-lane tunnels that allow for bidirectional traffic. And here's your party fact, it is the lowest underwater point in the entire national highway system. Plans for the tunnel started in the 1960s and construction got underway in 1980. It was initially planned as an 8 to 12 lane double-decker bridge over the harbor, but local activism changed that plan. Organizers argued that it would desecrate Fort McHenry and called on veterans groups and others to help stop the bridge. Neighborhood associations from Fells Point, Locust Point, and Federal Hill also got in on the action. This story is a reminder that as inevitable as infrastructure might seem, people can make their voices heard and stop plans. That said, organizers trying to stop the road to nowhere in West Baltimore were unable to stop the destruction of their neighborhoods, a reminder that organizing depends not just on the voices, but the people who do the speaking and who is willing to listen. But that is a digital tour for another time. And now let's return to the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Construction of what was first called the Outer Harbor Crossing began in 1972, and it opened for traffic in 1977, largely to divert traffic and increase capacity for the harbor tunnel. The bridge carries traffic from 895 and 695 over the Patapsco, connecting Dundalk and Hawkins Point. In 1980, a cargo ship hit the bridge, but the bridge was not significantly damaged. The 2024 crash was a lot different, destroying the bridge and killing 6 workers who were not notified of the impending disaster. The Key Bridge will be rebuilt and hopefully renamed, a story for another time, but we will still face traffic congestion and all that means for our lives and the future. Safety for all, including workers, climate and environmental effects of all that traffic, and how our lives are affected when we spend so much time in our cars instead of with each other. As the city rebuilds, I hope we can have conversations about what a truly accessible and safe transportation system could look like.